Hi everyone, this is Kubeflow training and AutoML community meeting on 6th of October. I will start sharing my screen. So today we have a couple of interesting items in the agenda, which I strongly recommend to follow. As always, you can check our recordings on the YouTube channel here. And if you want to discuss any other further items for training on AutoML, please feel free to update this doc. So today, first of all, we are going to start with training instead of AutoML, and Yuan will discuss the MPI operator transition. Yes, Yuan, you can start.
Yep. So I can start the discussion on that one. No.
Yeah. You can share your screen if you want to, or we can just discuss.
It's fine. We can just talk.
Yeah. Sure.
So basically, we are trying to decide which version of MPI operator to support in the universal operator that we just recently put together. So there are currently two options. One is the V1 API, and the other one is V2, which contains a large refactoring and a lot of performance improvements. Perhaps Aldo can add more information there. So basically, two versions. There may be maintenance overhead in order to support both versions, but let's discuss about that as well. So Aldo, do you want to provide a quick summary or share your opinion on this first?
First of all, I would like to know what is the current timeline for the next version of the universal operator.
So we have officially released 1.3.0, which will be part of Kubeflow 1.4. This release includes 4 main operators, which is TF job, PyTorch job, MX job, and XGBoost job. I think Wang, you're here as well, so you can add the status updates as well.
Sorry, in 1.4, so are we discussing today what do we do for 1.4?
Yeah, so I think
so
I think for 1.3 release of Kubeflow Universal Operator, we won't include MPI because it has already been officially released. So I think we're discussing about like the future releases.
And 1.4 is releasing when?
So Kubeflow 1.4 will be released this Thursday, so tomorrow. And 1.3 release of training operators was done, I think, Josh was done 3 days ago.
Okay, sorry, I missed when is 1.4 releasing?
So we have 1.3 release of training operators, and this release will be in Kubeflow 1.4. So it's like we have a different cycles of releases. Yeah. And it's like, yeah.
So, but then the 1.4 release is happening soon for Kubeflow.
Tomorrow.
And then
tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So then here we're talking for the next release, which would be 1.5 Kubeflow.
I think so.
Yes, and then 1.4 for the training operator.
Yep.
And what is the expected timeline for that?
I think we don't have a timeline for that yet, right? Because everyone's pretty busy with the current release already. Is it right?
Yeah,
Andre?
Yeah. I think I'm not sure that Kubeflow 1.5 will be until end of this year, and we still don't have the solution on that. But I think we can maybe target December, January for one. I don't know, Josh and Juan, what do you think? Because like you're the main owners of the release team in the training group. So what do you think?
Right, I think the first thing, the training operator release can be separate from the Kubeflow release. We just need to pin the manifest into the Kubeflow release. So if we have any like requirements, we can bump the minor version by our own. So for example, like Kubeflow 1.5 could have training operator 1.5 or even 1.6 if needed. So it totally depends on our schedule. And I think a lot of users, I think they use the training operator in a standalone way. So I think we don't Kubeflow release timeline is not that important to this repo. We just need to pin the right manifest there. But people can definitely use the higher version, and even the Kubeflow 1.4.1, let's think the patch release. If we don't have that many like API compatible issues, we can bump the versions as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we don't have any dependencies in Kubeflow. Aldo, just to let you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the timeline is pretty flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's no specific cadence. That's fine. So my thinking is that people some people might want to use the new unified operator. Some people might want to use the separate MPI operator, and then if one proposal is that we support both operators, the V1 and V2, in the unified, but then we're talking about 4 controllers that we have to support.
Ideally, I think the MPI operator will be archived or like deprecated at some point, and we should freeze contribution to that repo at some point, and everyone should contribute to this one training operator repo. So it would be great if we can provide a smooth upgrade path so that existing users can switch to the universal operator as easy as possible. So that's that's at least my goal, I think. I don't know if anyone has other opinions.
I agree. I mean, I think all of the operators should be deprecated in the near future, and we should focus on the universal one.
So I joined a little bit late. So what did we decide? Where should the V2 operator, V2 MPI operator lie? Is it in the universal operator repository, or is it in MPI operator?
So in the near future, we will migrate, but we currently making the decision, what about the V1 and V2? Do we want to support both of them? So I think this is the main question, right? Aldo and Jan.
Yeah. So first of all, does everyone agree that we can deprecate the MPI operator at some point soon? Once we migrated everything, like migrated like V1, either V1 or V2.
One proposal that I have would be like, how about having the V2 operator in universal training operator, while we still, for maybe like for one release, we will still maintain both of them. And after that, we deprecate the MPI operator, which is basically the V1 operator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I like that idea, that if people want to, they still need to use the V1 operator and they cannot migrate, so they could still run the separate operator. So we can close any development on V2 there, and then all the V2 development happens in the unified operator. Now, the main thing we need to support a smooth transition is conversion webhook. Basically, there's just a few fields in the V1 API that change in the V2 API. So we just need this conversion webhook to support those fields. Other than that, like people could technically use a V1 API, and it would work in the V2 operator.
Right. So one comment would be, so there are here to make things simpler. So there are two users, right? One who actually wants to keep on using v1 operator, and the other one actually want to try v2 operator, right? So people who actually want to try keep on using v1, they can still use it from MPI operator. And at some point when we deprecate MPI operator repository, which is v1, we will definitely have, at that time we will definitely have to provide webhook conversion webhook for v1 operator to v2, so that they can switch to v2. A person who is newly starting onto v2, who really wants to start on MPI job right now, they can directly try v2 if they actually need. But at this point, we don't need to worry about webhook, right? Because the codes are separate, and do we really need to provide a webhook at this point?
No, the webhook would only be for allowing the transition, a smooth transition, right? If people just start using the v2 API, it would just work, right? They don't need to worry about the v1 APIs. Was that your question?
Right. So yeah, my question was, at what time should we provide the conversion webhook in order for the users to transition from v1 to v2?
I would say at the point where we release a new Kubeflow release that doesn't contain the v1 operator.
Oh, so you mean like you want to have some period of time when Kubeflow will include the v1 version of MPI and v2, which will be in the universal one, right? And
Yeah.
But how we can handle it, because you have the same CRDs, right? Do you have a different type of the how you're planning to manage this?
I think that the easiest way to do this is really I think migrate v1 to the universal operator first, to the next training operator release, and then once that's released, we can include that new training operator release as part of the next Kubeflow release. So the experience for user is important. I think once they installed that single controller, they can instantly switch to use the new MPI job as well. So I think the CRDs are almost the same, right? There's nearly no change in the CRD. So I think once the controller is installed, they can just use it directly.
So in that case, should we then merge v2 code to master very soon, so that people can try using v2 code from our training operator repository, or like a single installation, and try it out, so that when newer Kubeflow release happens after the 4 months, that could be an official release for having all operators together in a single training operator.
Yeah, I think that's the preferred way, at least to me. So I agree.
Okay.
Can you state it again?
So we could what we could do, yeah. So what we could do is we could merge v2 operator to the training operator repository at this point, so that people can try out our training operator with the v2 MPI job, and that we could actually test it for next 4 months, right? Till in the next Kubeflow release, that would be the official release, right? A single training operator with all the jobs together.
Yeah, I would agree with that solution. I would only add to that as a requirement to have a conversion webhook.
I think conversion webhook is only necessary when both V1 and V2 are integrated to the universal operator, and then if we want to convince people to try V2 there. Since I think if anyone wants to try V2 right now, they can just use it directly, right?
Correct.
So
I agree there.
Because it's pretty new, and I don't think people would need to run both versions at the same time, in my opinion. They may feel safer to do it once it's more battle tested.
Just a quick question to Aldo. So is it correct that the version of V2 is V2 beta 1, right?
yes,
So,
it's a beta API, basically to gather feedback if we might like do any changes to the API, and then we release a V2 API. So it's kind of a separate thing, the controller version versus the API version. Because a controller could actually handle any version of the API.
Yeah, so for that purpose, that's exactly what Jonas said before, right? We can user can define a particular version in the YAML, and they can use like V2 or V1 version, right?
Yes, but generally there is only one controller running, and if it's the V1 controller running, it will support V1, V1 alpha, V1 alpha 2. But the V2 controller supports all of them, all of the YAMLs versions, but there might be some fields that are not supported because there is no conversion webhook.
Right. No, so just to add, so here, I think we are getting confused, right? See, 1.4 Kubeflow release has just V1, right, which is stable version. Now, what we are proposing is right now, if we add something to the training the V2 MPI operator to training operator. So right now, the people who actually wants to try out MPI operator, if they are looking for a stable version, they can go to MPI operator V1 version and install it. If they actually want to try out V2, they could come to training operator repo and then install V2 version. So there is no I don't know whether if there is a requirement for having conversion webhook at this point, because no one is going to install both of them together at this point, right? Later, when we have an official Kubeflow release, at that time we could imagine maybe after 4 months we could see whether we actually need a conversion webhook for supporting the V1 users.
So let me try to explain what is the usefulness of a conversion webhook. So today, let's say a user has a cluster running and they have YAMLs with V1 API, right? And then they upgrade to a newer version of MPI operator or whatever is running the V2 controller. They upgrade, and then they see that some fields stop working.
Yes, I get that. But my point is people would not try unless it is kept as stable version, right? So we have to make sure there should be a gap where we have to basically test it out extensively. And we could actually use some buffer in order for the new users to try it out and raise issues if they actually find any. So I'm just saying during that time, we have to make sure, we have to ensure that all the issues are resolved in the training operator repo before asking the existing users to switch.
Okay, so for that period, what is the proposal? What do we put in the training operator repository?
The V2, right, John? Just the V2. I mean, in the universal will be just a V2 version of controller, as you said, right, John? Is it correct?
Right, exactly. So as Justin was saying, the people who are the new users who would directly install it from the repositories, right? So he has a choice, right? Whether he has to go with the new V2 version or go with the stable V1 version. So we are expecting that there will be some users who would be trying V1 V2 version as well in order to get the newer features, right? So, and we are expecting that they might all the issues that they find out, we will be able to resolve it in training operator. And once we think at some point that this is stable, we could basically add conversion webhook or whatever required to make it much more popular and announce it to the existing users as well to switch.
So the only thing we would have to do there though is, sure, we have the V2 controller in the training operator repository, but it should be disabled in the Kubeflow release, right?
We can
Is
do
that
it.
possible?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not a problem. We can do whatever we want with the manifest with Kubeflow. We can even disable all of the training operators there.
Oh, okay. So if that's the case, I think that's a good solution. Like, yeah, people can still try it out there, but it's disabled if they install Kubeflow. And then we only maintain one.
So do you mean a situation where people install manifest from the master branch instead of the released version?
I think the question from Aldo was.
Yeah, so what I meant was, see, official Kubeflow version release will happen tomorrow, right? And it won't have does it have two versions supported? No, right? It has just V1, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
right. So which means the official Kubeflow release is out with just V1. So is there any point in changing that to like removing V1 version from manifest until the next Kubeflow release? I'm not sure whether it is required. We can change it, because, but I expect people not install manifest from a release from a master branch. They would install it only from a particular release, probably like 1.4 release, right?
I mean, there is supported versions, and the supported version should be the one we release, right? And that's the supported version. Like, if they install the master, I think they are assuming risk.
Okay, that's something which we can try. That should not be a problem. We can, if that is a concern, we could definitely remove it from master. But I'm not sure whether like, what do Jashin and Yuan say about it? I don't have any special preference regarding that. I don't think people will try from master, because I've seen lots of time. I've seen that there are issues with the master branch, and it is not recommended way of installing Kubeflow from a master branch when there is a released version, right?
Yeah. So to summarize my point of view, I agree with that solution.
Right, but the problem is, I think I agree. We should support V2 in long run. But the current problem is, we definitely know there's a few large co-ops. They use V1, and they also like to reduce the maintenance efforts managing our different repos. And I think the transition from V1 or V2 probably takes some time. I think one example is Tencent. And Wang is from Tencent, and I think he can talk about more use case. So I think they filed the PR to support V1 in training operator. So my question is, can we just think the two versions or two CRDs can coexist? Just treat it as like a version upgrade. I think it's pretty common in Kubernetes. For like in the past, like development, we have V1 beta and apps V1, right? So people can choose different versions. And after some time, we can deprecate V1, and we can even promote V2, but still keep those users. Otherwise, they will probably won't come to the training operator, and they keep using the fork for a long time. So that's possible, right?
So there's a distinction between API version and controller version. API version, I don't think it should go away. We can maintain the API version forever. We just need a conversion webhook so all the fields are supported. Now,
yeah, go ahead.
the new controller can support the V1 if there is a conversion webhook, and that's all we need. Does that answer your problem?
Technically, there's two ways to solve the problem, right? So the first way is the conversion webhook. The tricky thing is for example, in my company, we hope the solution is clean and do not involve the webhook. The reason is the performance is a concern. We use super large cluster, and all the workloads are running in the same cluster. Even for other like operators, we rewrite the webhook and have a centralized webhook to do all the stuff to reduce the latency, etc. So that's a minor concern to us. I think that's one way to support both versions. And the second one is we just keep two controllers there. And because what we designed is we can specify like which version you can use, and if we host the code there, but the V1 users, they can choose to start V1 controller, but V2 users, we can by default enable V2 API and V2 controllers. So it totally depends on the configurations. For those migration users, they can choose to start V1. Yeah, so that's what I think. Yeah, to support both cases. Yeah.
So as you can see in the V2 operator code or in the MPI operator repository, I had to start a new module, a new Go module, because the dependencies were too old for the old controller. Some of those were related, I think, if I remember correctly, they were related to an old version of Volcano that was in use.
Yeah.
So that's why I couldn't put the two versions in the same module. So
Right.
I don't know if that will replicate, if the problem will replicate if we try to have V1 and V2 in the training operator repository. If that's not a problem, I guess we could maintain the status quo and just copy both. But like from my point of view, it would be easier to just copy one. It would be easier to maintain, but yeah, I hear you. I hear your request that yeah, people are running the old operator. But that's my concern. The dependencies might break.
Got it.
Or
Yeah.
they might not work together. I don't know. I don't know what's
Right. Technically, let me okay. I think the Volcano side, because that part we can ask them to cut any release versions, for example, like the Kubernetes dependencies, along with their release versions. We collaborate with them closely. I think usually we reuse the common, but MPI is a little bit different. So the versions might be different from others. But to me, I think that's not a big problem, and we can unify the Volcano versions. So we follow the like Kubernetes standards. For example, let's keep all the dependencies to like 119. And we asked the Volcano to cut 119 corresponding release as well. So in that case, I think we can at least use the same version in MPI operator first, and then if the dependency is not a problem, I think that should be okay to keep two controllers. We can also make them, technically we can run them at the same time, right?
Jishin, my only question is, yes, maintaining two controllers, that is fine, but do we need to copy that to training operator? Instead, we could keep that in two different repository itself, right?
You mean the V1 and V2 both in training?
Yeah.
No, wait. I think so. If I'm hearing correctly, Jonu, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly.
No.
Jonu is saying we keep V1, we support V1 in the separate operator, and we support V2 in the unified.
Yeah.
And Jianxing is asking we support both in the unified.
Oh, is that is
Right. That's I think Otto's statement is correct. Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can support both because there's two stuffs. I think a version upgrade it definitely helps like reduce the pressure on API server, etc. It's a good improvement. And the other part we have to know is the major motivation we do this is to reduce the maintenance efforts. So people feel like kind of hard to maintain multiple repos, both for the end users and the maintainers. So that's the motivation. So we can imagine the V1 will be used still probably in like probably I think more than half year. I don't know when the major users will move to the V2. So in that case, every time we still need to have to do separate release, etc. And people have to migrate both, so support both, because the most MPI users, they do have other frameworks that need to be supported, and that's still a problem. So that's that's why I think we probably can support both, but promote V2 in the major repo.
okay. Like if that is a concern, yes, like it's okay, right? Yeah.
Let's maybe, so Justin, from the user perspective, like from your company and I don't know, from Wang's user, so is it fine if they install MPI from the Kubeflow-MPI operator? Is it the problem for them?
In our company, because we have a framework called BytePS, so
Okay.
MPI based is not widely used, but we have some graph case to plan to move to MPI. So for us, we are okay with either V1 or V2 because we don't have the historical burden on this. Wang, I think you're from Tencent. Could you share the experiences? I think you are a very heavy MPI user.
Okay, so in my company, V1 controller is widely used, and for both internal and external users. When I say external, I'm referring to users using Tencent Cloud. And I also discussed this same question with people from Alibaba, and they said they are still using V1. I'm not sure V1 or V1 Alpha 1 internally. So the V1 controller is widely used in both companies, and from my perspective, it's better to keep both versions. Both versions of controllers in the training operator, and we do care not too much about the API because just like Aldo said, we can just convert the API version from V1 to V2 or even from V2 to V1. And the main point is whether our internal users and external users has confidence in the new V2 controller. It will be great, and we are happy to promote, to push forward the upgrading work from V1 controller to V2 controller, as long as we have a compelling case to tell our internal and external users that V1 is completely production ready. And the user case can be Jiaxing's company, which is big enough, and or maybe from Aldo, if GCP can can use this V2 controller, as a default one, and tell us there are many users is using the V2, so I can tell my internal users and external users the V2 controller is, production ready and widely tested in large scale environment. So I can ask them to upgrade the V1 controller to V2 controller. And at that point, we can deprecate the V1 controller and move everything to V2 controller. I think that's the best scenario from my perspective.
So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, but what gave people confidence to start using the V1 operator in the first place? Because when I started writing the V2 controller, I didn't find enough coverage at unit integration or end-to-end test level. So, and the V2 controller has that. So I think
I understand what Aldo you are referring. The V1 do not have enough end-to-end test or unit test, but you have to, in my perspective, users verify whether a software is production ready, not only from the test it wrote, it also from how many cases it has been used. So because we are doing to business mode, the public cloud. So sometimes we have to concern more from our to think more about how our user thinks this problem. For me, my team, for the internal team, maybe it will be easy to to tell the internal users the V2 controller has more unit test and it should be more robust compared to the V1 controller, yes. But to our external users, they need endorsement not only from the unit test, but also from the real case. Am I clear?
Yeah, I mean, that requires some time, right? I mean, we can't find a solution right now because in any case, we need use cases. So I mean, from my understanding, the main problem, Aldo, is the library dependencies, right? That is why we cannot just push everything to the universal.
I don't remember if it was because of V1 or V1 alpha that had these dependencies issues. It might have been V1 alpha, but
maybe.
So I guess I guess
because like
that argument can be made about V1 alpha, right? Because if I remember correctly, the last release of MPI operator still included the V1 alpha controller. So which one is the one that has production readiness? Which one of those controllers with the V1 or V1 alpha?
I think we speak about only V1, so we just forget about all of the legacy controllers. Some of the users might still use, yeah.
If V1 alpha is not in discussion, then it might not be that hard to support V1 and V2.
Because we can maybe create two separate controllers, right? And just for V1 and V2, and just to see if the libraries will be compatible. Because as I can say, the main problem is with the users, and some of the users, like, they're not ready to transfer to the V2, and that is like the valid use case. I agree, from the large scale departments. But what do you think? Maybe we should try to at least create like two separate folders with two separate controllers for the V1 and for the V2, at least for the initial step.
So I think I would be fine with that, but I don't have me personally, I don't have the bandwidth to work on that. Okay. So if there are contributors already willing to do that, I can still help with the reviews. But I would like all the coverage to be transferred.
I got it. So one question, I mean, John, what do you think? Because I mean, we.
Yeah, I think Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. So we will first move V2 and we will check whether V1 could be supported in extra to V2 in the training operator. If it supports, I think it like then we are good, right? Like it will satisfy.
Yeah. I mean, it's even better. Yeah, Josh, what do you think? It's like even better.
So I think that would be a good plan, right? Start copying the V2 first, then try to copy the V1, and if it doesn't, if it's not compatible, then we would only support V1 through the old way, and we can keep that for a while, I guess, until there is confidence in the V2 from users' perspective.
Sorry, are you suggesting we have to wait V2 controller is merged to Kubeflow controller and then start to move V1 controller? Because I see there's already pull request to merge V1 controller to the training operators.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Is it complete?
I mean, if it is a dependency issue, it's a technical issue. We can always solve technical issue some way or other way around, right?
Yeah, but it requires someone to work on it.
Yeah, it requires. I mean, this is the main problem.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sure. And why not we just put an issue on the training operator to trace the dependency issue and see if someone can help Aldo to solve this one.
Sounds good to me.
We can try to find people who are willing to help. Maybe just again ask Jan. Maybe he has like some people who help, but it's fine. Aldo, what do you think? Because I mean, I understand it's probably like you don't have enough bandwidth to support both of them and fixing all the dependency issues.
Yeah, let me help check the Volcano dependency issues. I'm pretty familiar with that part, and I can clone the MPI manually and move the V2 into the same folder as V1 and check any problems. If we think the technical blocks is clear, then we can merge V1 and gradually merge V2. I think we all agree in the future we like to enable V2 by default, but just leave the option for V1 users. Does this sound good?
Yeah, to simplify your task there, I guess what you can do first is remove the V1 alpha.
Oh, okay.
Remove all of that, because I hear from everyone saying that we don't really want to support V1 alpha anymore. So I guess we might as well just remove it now. And then we try to copy the V2 into the bigger module, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So are we like fine with this next step to make sure that we can even if the libraries will be not compatible, we can always like create a subfolder under our controllers, right? So I mean, in the training operators, we can just figure out where will be the location for the V1 if something will go wrong, right? Okay. Then I think we can move forward, because at least, so Justin, you will take this, right, to make sure that we maybe at least can migrate remove the old alpha controllers and migrate on V1 controller, right?
Yes, I can check the technical issues, but I'm not sure if we want to really we would like to move the folder or just verify the if it works or not. I prefer to just verify first, because I don't want to read the commit history. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. We spent some time. So can we move forward? Aldo, do you have any question? Maybe we can follow up if you have any other like raised questions, or okay, we can move forward because we have like a couple of items to cover. So yeah, about the release, I think Josh, we released 1.3, which is great. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. So everything is working right now. Did you face any issues? Have you tried to run this release in the production environment?
Oh, we in my company we haven't yet.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's already included in the Kubeflow 1.4. And I think we should probably ask people, I don't know about the blog post, if you have the time to create it after the release, but I think it's maybe worth to speak about it, at least because it's like the huge update for our users. And we definitely need to force them to test this release, right? Does it sound good?
John, what's your opinion on this part?
Yeah, sounds good, right? So here, the blog post, when you refer to blog post, what exactly is it?
I don't know, it can be anything, right, Josh? Like speaking about our transition and why it's...
Oh, yeah, I know. Is it the common blog post that we are trying, or is it like specific to training operator?
To training operator, to universal training operator, I would say.
Yeah, like Josh creates a common release blog post, right? So, So we could basically add that in the probably like add some extra things, specify what we have in 1.4 regarding the new training operator in the same release blog post. So I'll yeah. So I think Josh is not there.
No, I think Josh is here. Yeah.
Hi, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, two things going on that line. So we have the 1.4 blog post, which I've been asked to keep fairly simple. I'm glad to add in, I believe there is a few lines in there about the training operator, but if they're the universal training operator, but if there's something in specific, we wanted to add one more line and then refer to another blog post that provide more details, that would be fine. And I'm more than willing to fit in a couple more lines if we need for the training operator update. It's up to you guys. But I need two things. One, I'll need somebody to kind of look at the blog post that I'm writing and provide approval on it. And then we also need someone to speak on Friday for the training operator working group in the PowerPoint presentation. I know I'm mixing things here, but might be.
I think yeah, that should be okay, right? Like I'll so that we can coordinate. I'll coordinate with Jishin as well, who is available on Friday. I think that should be okay. I think the major one would be in the whether we need to have one extra blog for the Kubeflow training operator, or is it in the same release one? So you recommend having two separate posts, right? Like one specific for.
It matters how much you have and how many links you want to put in. Like you can make one sentence with 5 links in it, right? And people can go to a lot, or we could just put. It just depends on how much you want to put into the Kubeflow 1.4 blog post, right?
Sure.
If you want to put in 5 sentences, you're going to have a lot more verbiage than most of the other working groups will, is my point, right?
Sounds good. So in that case, I think in the release, we will add few sentences in the release one as well. In the separate blog post, we could probably like show some examples that we have in the Kubeflow documentation and just say that, yeah, I think kind of like little more descriptive on running examples for someone who is starting new.
Yeah,
go
ahead. Yeah, just I will. You're correct, Wank. I will just change it to in the docs. So we will merge the two. Yeah, I mean, I agree, and definitely. I mean, since just I remember that we discussed about the like the beta integration in production by using the universal training operator. So I think from my point of view, it will be great if we have any user output and we say what was like the main goal, supporting everything in the one place. And I think this that might work like an additional blog post because it's a lot of information, right?
Right.
Sounds good. So Josh, so once you have you create a draft, can you add us? Then we will help you with reviewing it and then adding most content onto that.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I need you guys to sign off before Taya will post it. So I'm gonna need somebody from each of the working groups to sign off and say, yeah, that's good, that's good. So I'll probably put it in a PR, and I'll put the link in the PR, either in an issue and in a PR, and then I'll make you guys available to go in and do a looks good to me or to edit it. We may edit it in a blog in a Google Doc first before we put it into, because it may be easier to edit from a Google Doc. Do you guys have a preference there? Or would you rather do it in?
I think Google Doc is fine, right? Because you can share it and it's easier to maintain, right?
All right, so I'll get a Google Doc out in the next 24 hours to you guys probably. Then we'll try to finish that up and get it into a PR. We'll submit the PR, then we'll look for your looks good to me. And then I'll get it over to Taya, and she's gonna try to get it out by Tuesday.
So Josh, do you want to release blog posts directly on Thursday? I mean, or on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, we want to try for Tuesday because that's KubeCon's AI day.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah,
we don't have to, but that's our target, right?
Okay, I see. Yeah, so we have like 4 more days. Okay. Yeah, we will try it. So let's just focus on this Google Doc. Regarding to the couple of steps for the renaming, I think everything is fine. I think you saw my PRs about changing the testing repo. Because we need to make sure that everything is working under the new training operator renaming. I'm still not sure about the CI/CD pipelines because currently, as you can see, our CI/CD doesn't working, and here you won't see the pro information from the pro cluster. So I don't know, Josh, you don't have any like insights how the testing will handle this change. Our AWS cluster.
I think after we change the like I think you made the change, right? That should be good enough. Yeah, even we don't change it, I think it should work. The auto redirect will handle the problem, and I'm checking if there are other like code changes. I think code definitely we need to make some changes. There's a lot of reference there, and probably some others other thing to change. Yeah, we probably need to create a issue to track all those potential changes. Yeah.
So first of all, I need to. So your proposal is to merge this PR and to see how Pro Cluster will handle these changes, right? Because we've never tried before renaming the repo for the type cluster.
Right. Yeah, I think
for the Pro
this
cluster.
change looks good to me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so let's try to merge this. And then I also created the PR about updating the links, like the references, as you mentioned. So once we enable the Pro cluster, we need to make sure that everything is working. I was able to testing this locally. For local testing, it is working, but at least we need to enable our CI/CD pipeline, right? Yeah, let me post these issues to the doc. About the SDK, I don't know if you follow up the conversation, but I think we released the SDK, right?
Yeah, we need to release to the PyPI. So that part actually was maintained by Jin Chi, but the permission issue, I think we need to sync with him on the previous release process.
Okay, sounds good. So what do you think about having one Swagger for all? I mean, have you followed up with this discussion? I can ping you again, but the problem is like, since we have multiple Swaggers per framework, we have to combine them to the one Swagger.
Yeah.
And maybe it's better to just have one Swagger for all frameworks and just push it to the SDK. It will be easier, right?
Yeah, I think he probably filed a new PR to address this. I
Yeah, I
haven't
will.
checked the PR yet, but right. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we
fine.
can.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I will try to actually ask him again about this, and we can follow up on the his PR for the updating the Swagger. Okay. Other than that, I don't know. Do we have any other blockers for the training operators?
I don't. Jono, do you have anything to share?
I think we are good. Other than the release blog post, I think we don't have any task as such. So we can sync separately regarding that, like once Josh starts creating the draft. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have much time, but I really want to mention a couple of things for the KDIP, and we also like release 0.12. So please feel free to test it. It has like a lot of cool features. Yeah, let me post the link here. And one thing, like maybe you can give me like 3 more minutes about the examples, since Josh is here and is very important for the users. So we are planning to refactoring the examples repository for KDIP. And I don't know, do you think, do you have some time to take a look at these changes? Because it's more from the user-facing side. I can share the PR with you if you're like fine with these changes. And I just want to hear the feedback, because we have questions about the naming there. And I don't know how we can get the output from the users if this sounds good to them. So I don't know, John, do you think should we try to make the initial PR and move forward? And what do you think? How we can move
I think let's do that. Let's do that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't. Because I really want to include that. I remember, Josh, you told me about the tutorial, right? The tutorial section in the slides.
Let's take it separately, right? Like we can go in first phase. Let's go with this, and then take the other things in the separate one.
So there's a section inside of the blog post that says, to learn more, go to these tutorials. I'd like to be able to provide a few simple getting starting tutorials where people could go, for example, on training, find 1 or 2 that they, and maybe see them all, but feed them the one that is probably the best one for them to start with.
Okay. Yeah, that is why we're exactly creating this, the getting starting example, not for training, but for KDIP. And this is very like was the many users actually ask us to create like simple example without any cloud support. So yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to, it's a good like part which we can include in the slides. But yes, I mean, so sounds good. Any other, because yeah, we run out of time, but any other like last comment questions that you have?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good as well.
Yep. Thank you so much, guys, for this time, because yeah, we've done a lot of work for 1.4, and the training I hope will run smoothly on the new environment, and definitely I think it's a great improvement for the Kubeflow users, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm trying to simplify this in a way that people will understand. It seems like it's more foundational, but if there are things that we want to highlight, you'll see in the blog post. If we want to bring out a few of the things about how the universal training operator simplifies the end user's life in a few words and let them link to more, that would be great. That's what I'm trying to get to, is kind of the highlight. This is, what is the big benefit of the universal training operator, if that's the big delivery?
Yeah, it's a great point. We need, yeah, for that we need to have like production readiness and to see, to just making some improvements for the users. Yeah, but I mean, it's a good point. We can maybe try to focus after the release, because we don't have much time to do this right now. But maybe again, it was to mention in the future, right? Okay, sounds good. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for your time today. So see you again soon. I think on Friday, we'll have our recordings.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
See you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.